Welcome back to the Power 2, and I get to host this show tonight because, well, winners, they get to go ahead and glow. TJ Pittenger, Tom Hannafin, Cole Thompson joining you. Like the video, hit the notification. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. We see your comments over on Twitter, but we want to see your comments over on YouTube, so make sure you go on over to there. Let's not waste any time, boys. How we feeling after a fabulous Week 5 that delivered on all spectrums, but unfortunately, it delivered on the wrong side out in Charlottesville and out in Happy Valley.
I mean, it was a good weekend overall.
No,
if you start for me, if you start when the weekend starts, right? If you start when most people's weekend starts at 5 p.m. on Friday, not a great weekend for me. If you start at midnight on Saturday, right, or Saturday at noon Eastern, then not so bad. But Tom, how about yourself?
So I think I told you guys in the lead up to this, I was in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada on Thursday through yesterday and much of today traveling back here. So not only was I occupied with my primary employer, TNA Wrestling, we had some fantastic events there. So I'm sitting at the desk and everybody's asking me all day, are you going to get to watch the game? Are you going to get to watch the game? It's like, no, I'm going to be sitting at the announce desk calling our fabulous shows, so I won't be able to watch it, and telling everybody and their brother in my life, please no spoilers, please no spoilers. It's impossible at this day and age. Like, you can't help it. You're going to hear about it. And then also I run my own podcast about Penn State football, state of Penn State football show. So I had to do the edit for that after the fact. So I had to know what had actually happened. But to this point, because I was on Canadian soil, I didn't have access to YouTube TV. So I still haven't witnessed what happened between Penn State and Oregon. I just know that there's sadness. I know that once again, Penn State blew it. I know once again, Penn State had an opportunity to knock off a top 10 opponent, and they didn't get the job done. Penn State, from everything I can glean from all the information I've tried to gather without actually watching the game itself, is that this is a national championship caliber defense for Penn State, and this is a very pedestrian offense for Penn State. And my big takeaway from the weekend as a whole, because there's all these games we're going to get to and a lot of games that were close and some blowouts we weren't expecting, is that I think we need to start throwing away this concept of the overreaction after one game, 2 games, 3 games, or something in a microcosm, as if that's going to be an indicator for the rest of the season, because it's not me making apologies for my team and what Penn State did, but I think there is so much hype about a variety of different teams coming into the season. Florida State beating Alabama. We all immediately are like, Florida State's going to the college football playoff, and then you lose on the road at Virginia in a thriller. Like, all these things happen, and I think the parity has just never been greater in college football. And we talk about in the offseason in terms of the business side of things. It's like, this is turning into the NFL. This is turning more and more into an NFL product, and that you're going to see some weeks where it's sloppy and it's close, and other weeks where juggernauts look like juggernauts. And that's just kind of what this is feeling like more and more. And that's just kind of my feeling. But it's really sad to be a Penn State fan right now. It really sucks, because it just felt like this has to be the one. And now for Penn State versus Oregon, we'll get to it in a little bit, it feels like Penn State has to win out the rest of the year if they want to win hearts and minds. They at least have to only suffer one more loss to make the college football playoff at this point, because I think there's going to be a lot of doubt. So hell of a weekend.
It's all good. The positive is that, Bo Pabula didn't have a great day out in Columbia, Missouri on Saturday. So
Why'd you have to bring it up?
So you don't have to worry about that one. Let's go to Charlottesville Friday night. 46-38 final score. Virginia, Chandler Morris, Tony Elliott getting a signature win that may or may not end up being the reason he is brought back for another year in the state of Virginia, where right now there's an opening. Is there going to be 2 openings? This is a good way to go ahead and prove the program is trending in the right direction. Send it to double overtime, and there was a play of all plays that is going to be discussed. TJ, as always, you're a Florida State guy. What'd you notice? What went wrong? What went right? And what is the plan moving forward for Tommy Castellanos, Mike Norvell, and Gus Malzahn?
Yeah, a lot went wrong in this game. And really, the offense for most of the game was pretty good and pretty impressive. And they were always doing it trailing. Like, they had one good drive when the game was tied at 14-14, where they went down and took the lead. but every single touchdown they scored, they were down in the game. And I thought the way that they fought back was actually really impressive offensively, right? I'll get to complaints in a minute. But I even thought that Tommy, in situations where you knew he had to drop back and throw the ball all through the fourth quarter, certainly overtime, I thought he was much better than I thought he would be in that situation. That was my biggest nightmare coming into this season, outside of, I guess, going 2-10 again. My biggest concern was when you are in a situation where they know that Tommy just has to drop back and pass, how good can he be throwing the ball when his legs are not a threat at all? And you got the ball. Now, he did have a nice run on that last drive in regulation that set them up. But from there on, I mean, he just had to throw the ball. There was no option. There was no chance of him rolling out and scrambling because they were guarding against that. In overtime, obviously the play you're referencing, he put the ball right in the money, right? Like, he did a great job, in my opinion, of putting the ball on the money really most of the game, but especially when you knew he had to pass. And so offensively, things to clean up, turnovers. You don't go down 14-0 if you don't give them a short field and if you don't throw a pick. That was a great play by the Virginia defender that got tipped and caught. But yeah, I mean, I think you clean those up, you make a field goal in regulation, or you tackle somebody and have kind of better gap integrity. If you do any one of those three things, like all three phases had massive errors and blunders. If you just fix one of those three things, you win the game, right? Like that's it. And so you make a field goal, you don't go overtime. You tackle a little bit better, you don't go overtime. You don't turn the ball over and give short fields or take points off the board for yourself. Even if Florida State wouldn't have gotten a touchdown on that first interception, they were kicking a field goal because they were inside the 5. So to me, that's what it was. You were not good enough in all three phases. You let the other team get out, and that crowd, I know we don't think of Charlottesville as some, massive hype factory. When there's a top 10 team in there and you've got 60,000 people or just short of 60,000 people, it's just like I don't say just like every other college football stadium, but it's the same environment, right? Like, you've got 60,000 drunk people screaming. It's not that much different than 75,000 drunk people. It's kind of the same. So great environment. It was really, a great win for Virginia. Florida State left a lot out there. And again, probably what I'm most disappointed with was, defensively, if I'd have told you that, you hold Bama to 80, but Virginia goes for 250 plus, you'd have been like, come on, man, like, get out of here. And so that's where I think the soul searching is like, was the scheme bad? Did you not take it seriously enough? Was the effort? I don't think the effort was really bad. Guys, whether it's not wrapping up or just whatever the situation is. Yeah, you just can't play like that against the run. The mesh concepts really hurt him too. Like, guys were wide open on like 5 and 6 yard, just crossing routes all day. And that wasn't helpful at all. And it really let Virginia move the ball pretty effectively. So a lot to clean up. But you get a big opportunity next week. We'll talk about the Miami game on Wednesday, I'm sure. But offensively, I think, Tom, if we could take Penn State's defense and Florida State's offense, we might be cooking with gas there.
Be a nice little Frankenstein monster there, buddy. Yeah.
I will give Sleeper a little bit of love. Listen, if you're depositing, use our code CFA, get a 100% match up to $100. We will play the more or less game on Wednesday, where you pick 2 of your favorite picks or more. You can win up to 1,000 times your money. There are some free picks that you can go get right now. Like, I think Jared Goff has like 0.5 as an over-under for passing yards. So, supposing he doesn't get hurt on the first play of the game, should be relatively safe there. Bunch of free picks that you can go and stack together. Check Sleeper's terms and conditions because terms of use do apply. We appreciate Sleeper for their support. Tune in on Wednesday live at noon so we can talk about our picks. And again, appreciate Sleeper for all of their support. That might be really good. But defensively, they need a lot of work. Offensively, if you clean up just a couple of the little mistakes, I thought their offense was pretty impressive this week.
Yeah. Credit where credit's due to Charlottesville. What an environment. You were there in person, TJ. For me personally, when I see Squirrel White turn into Simba with the wildebeest coming on down and it turns into a Mufasa situation, you have a pretty good environment. That's ultimately what happened. Thankfully, Squirrel White's okay. That is something that, you always want to take into consideration. I will say Tommy Castellanos, the 2 interceptions were dreadful, but the fact is he made some awesome throws. There were some surgical passes. The Randy Pittman touchdown was great. Right on the money. You look at the review, the way that they were able to go ahead and pinpoint that the ball doesn't even ricochet out of his hands. That's what you want to see. the Deuce Robinson touchdown, non-touchdown, in my opinion, was the throw of the night because it's exactly where it needs to be, in stride, right past your receiver, right past the outstretched arm of a defensive back that allows you to gain that confidence that we're right back in this thing. And you are right, TJ. It came down to a couple of blunders and blips here. The thing is that, and this is something that I really wish I would have paid more attention to when looking at Virginia going into this year. Chandler Morris, when he is in the right offense, is surgical. He is fantastic. He's got the mobility factor. He is not afraid to tuck and run. He is willing to go ahead and take the hits. But what I really like about him is that he's a risk taker, and most of the time it ends up panning out for him. He had some really, really bad throws. I mean, he had 3 interceptions on the day. He brought Florida State literally right back into the game. It was a 14-0 swing at the very beginning. 14 points came off of 2 turnovers in favor of Florida State.
Yep.
But there's a lot to like about what his mentality is, the fact that he's able to run the football efficiently. I thought he had a pretty good overall executed game plan with Jamari Taylor in the backfield. He only averaged 3.7 yards a play, but he had 3 runs of over 15 yards downfield. That was really, really promising. Xavier Brown had a couple of big-time runs. So this is, to me, a good game and a good gauge of the ACC having kind of an SEC feel where maybe you have that one elite team, and that may very well be Miami. Or maybe you just have a bunch of teams that are all susceptible to a loss if you do not deliver an exceptional game plan. Because right now, I don't know what the status is going to be of the SEC long term, especially this season, because there are, I would say, 7 or 8 teams that have impressed throughout the first 5 weeks that feel like if everything goes in their direction, they will be in Atlanta playing for SEC title and a college football playoff bid. The ACC may have that same persona. Again, we don't know what Miami is going to look like next week when they face off against Florida State. Georgia Tech went down to the wire and probably, because of terrible officiating, should have lost to Wake Forest on a bad play design. SMU has already suffered a couple of losses. NC State was dreadful in the second half against Virginia Tech. Duke is going to be a backdoor sleeper team if they can figure some things out, especially defensively. Syracuse has no life anymore because of Steve Angeli's gone. You don't know what Clemson is. And Virginia at this point may end up being another one of these playoff teams that we're not talking enough about because of their schedule is manageable. I think that it just shows you that this is a conference right now, has a lot of depth, has a lot of teams that can find a way to keep things interesting or even beat you on Saturday if you did not deliver the final crushing blow.
Yeah, Tom mentioned this too, and really just it's very true in the ACC, but I do think it's true in college football in general. Like just the parity, and I would have always said about the NFL is you're never as good as your last week, and you're never as bad as your last week, and that feels like it applies here too. Now, there's a little bit of a caveat to that, just the fact that Florida, between this game and the Alabama game, Florida State played a couple of cupcakes, and then between this game and the Georgia game for Alabama, or the Florida State, you played a couple of teams that you're just so much more superior to. And that doesn't happen as much in the NFL unless you just get, the Dolphins or something, right, on your schedule. But and even then, you saw the Dolphins compete on that Thursday night. So I think that in college football, you are seeing more of that parity. You are seeing the way that, all of these games, like, we'll talk about a bunch of them, even the Mississippi State game that didn't go their way. Like, a year ago, that wouldn't have happened, So anyway, I do think Tom is pretty spot on there, and it's certainly the case in the ACC. It does feel like Miami and then everybody else, but I mean, who knows, man? Like Florida State upsetting Miami this weekend in Doak would certainly not even rank on the top 10 most shocking things that we've seen so far this season. And so
I would say it's not even top 30 at this.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I'm not picking that, right? We're not doing our picks yet because it's not Wednesday, but like, that wouldn't surprise. So it feels like it's Miami and then everybody else, but they haven't played a conference game yet, and they haven't left the 305 yet. And so, man, we'll see. We'll see what that looks like. I mean, Alabama gets a big win, and nobody would be surprised if Vandy won next week. I mean, they'd be a little bit surprised.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. Not even a little bit.
That's just how. I mean, this thing. I mean, Virginia's got to go. Talking on Virginia, so they got to go to Louisville.
Yep.
Nobody's going to be shocked if Louisville wins that game. And so, I mean, Georgia Tech, if not for the refs, would have a loss to Wake Forest this week.
And shame on me for not mentioning Louisville getting a win over Pitt and having to fight their way back. I mean, that was another good game.
The the perfect case study of last week. Indiana murders Illinois, and then
Yeah.
it looks like Illinois is just in a complete mismatch after losing 5 defensive backs. They beat USC, a pass-happy team with a great quarterback, great receiving core in Champaign. And then Indiana goes on the road at Kinnick, are the two most dangerous words in Big Ten
Yeah.
football, and they escape with a last-second intentional safety by Fernando Mendoza by a score of 20-15.
Yeah,
It's
it was a
like,
smart play, though.
so
Very
oh
smart
no,
play.
very smart play. No, I love the play. I thought it was really intelligent. But all that being said, it was still 20-13 against Iowa, the team that we've seen this year, like somehow hang 38 on a Rutgers team that can also throw the football. Like, it's a different amorphous blob every single week. So as much as we love the overreaction, and I'm guilty of it as much as anybody, it's fascinating the parody right now.
I do want to, before we move on to the next game, the problem that is going to have to be fixed at some point, and it comes with officiating, and the real big problem is, especially in the ACC, whatever the call is, you better guarantee that it sticks. Because the Deuce Robinson touchdown, I personally think it was not a touchdown. I personally, the way that it looked when it was ricocheting off his hands, his body control, you still see it moving as his feet are being drug out of bounds. But if it's called a touchdown on the field and you don't have enough evidence to be able to overturn it, then you have to go ahead and stand by it. And the worst part is, you don't hear this in the Big 12, you don't hear this in the SEC, you don't hear it in the Big 10. It's just a call that you're waiting to hear from the officials that comes back to you. In the ACC, they give you the broadcasting room inside of what's going on, and they're looking at the play, and you can hear into the microphone on what's being said. That's something that needs to get corrected, in my opinion. Because I know that TJ was very much talking about this earlier when we asked him what was his thoughts on the play. Just your thoughts overall on that moment.
Yeah, if you were just asking me, if you just showed me the replay and didn't tell me how it was called on the field, I would probably lean no catch.
Right.
That's probably what I would go with. But with the benefit of knowing that it was called a catch on the field, again, I have seen it a million times now, and people are like, "Oh, can you watch it?" And I'm like, that doesn't even bother me. Not tackling, on an 11-play rushing drive is what bothers me. But I do think that having watched it a bunch, I don't know that it was that conclusive. To me, it kind of looked like he was trying to tuck the ball, and if you have it in your hands and then you shift it to tuck, that to me is not really losing control, though it didn't stay glued to your hands at that moment. Like, I understand, like, the act of tucking the ball is not losing control. In fact, moving it around is the most control you could physically have. And so, yeah, I mean, I would lean toward a no catch, but knowing what it was on the field, I think it should have probably stood.
Right.
Which is like kind of the same thoughts I had on that Virginia Tech Miami game last year. Remember that? Like, it's very similar. Now, that one I think was a little bit more obvious that it wasn't a catch, but it's kind of the same thing. Like, if it seems like that rule of like what it was called on the field gets applied sometimes and it doesn't at other times.
To me, I understand the frustration. I do, because of what you get called and then what's overturned. But what I would be more frustrated at if I'm a Florida State fan is we outgained Virginia by over 100 yards. We had 258 passing yards compared to their 229. We won the turnover battle. I mean, we had the same number of turnovers. We had just one more penalty than them. We outrushed them 258 to 211. We outgained them on third down conversions. We were better on third down. I mean, they were 2 of 2 on fourth down conversions. We were 3 of 5, and we still lost the football game in double overtime. Like, we had opportunities and we continuously shot ourselves in the foot. Like, I'd be more upset about that than I would about anything else. Like, with the Wake Forest game, as much as it's infuriating that you didn't win, and you didn't win because of a bogus call by officiating, you also made sure to realize that your team was probably at its end's rope. So just go for the win at that point.
Yeah.
There's no harm in saying, you know what, we didn't get Claiborne the ball. We ended up finding a way to come up short, but at least we can say that we took the shot. Like, Florida State had opportunity after opportunity to get back in this game, and they weren't able to capitalize. And Virginia got a signature win underneath Tony Elliott, which is really, really good for him when it comes to, I would say, his status after the season. For a program that we don't really know what they are right now, but that may not be a terrible thing either.